Bienvenidos, bienvenidas a nuestro canal Aportes Afrocostarricenses y Diaspóricos. So we are going to this afternoon, we are going to know a little about Padre Leroy Watts, George Leroy Watts, about his life, his and his contribution to the celebration of August 31st in Costa Rica. So Padre, let's begin at the beginning. Could you just tell us about the place and dates you were born?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I hope that we can get to gather the information that you are expecting this evening so that you can have it in your program for this year celebration. I am from Port Limon. I was born on January 7th, 1947 in the city of Limon. And I grew up as a young boy here in Limon, attending the Methodist English School first, where we had classes throughout the day. We didn't have the age to go to the public school as yet, so I started just going to English school for almost 4 years. And then when I was 6 years old, I was able to go over to the public school in Spanish, where we have half of the day to go to English school and the next half to attend the Spanish school. My mother and my grandmother is who grew me up, and I can say that the life that I've lived with them helped me to see life and to go through the life with a lot of enjoyment. I could say that they were very religious people. My grandmother was a member of the Salvation Army, and my mother was an Episcopalian from the Anglican Church. So sometimes my grandmother take me to the Salvation Army when Major Lynch was there, and we go to service in the evening about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And on Sundays, before having this service and worship at the temple, they used to go the streets in bands, play music, religious songs. And I used to live at 2 blocks from the Baños, and we used to have service there on Sunday night. And after we finish the service for the community, we go and have the service for the members in the church. So I get to learn a lot from Major Lynch. He was a real nice teacher and pastor for us here in Limon. And my mother used to go to the Anglican Church in time of Archdeacon Ziadi, William Ziadi. Then she used to attend evening service also, and the morning service at 6:30. So some weeks I will go with my mother to church, and some weeks I go with my grandmother. And that's the way I get to be integrated into both groups at this worship.
Very ecumenical, very ecumenical.
Yes.
Could you tell us the names of your mother and grandmother?
My grandmother was Diana Watts Williams, and she was born in Antigua. And then she went over to Jamaica and was married. She came over with one son, that's my uncle, the eldest one, and her husband to work in Port Limon. When they were here, she had 2 more children, Alexander Watts and also Rubitina Watts with my mother. She was the youngest one, Rubitina Watts. And I lived with my grandmother for many years. After she died now, I got to be with my mother and take care of her, and then got married and are living with us in the home for many years until she passed off in 1981.
Okay. Well, that's good. So now that you mentioned where they came from, the Caribbean, could you elaborate a little more about your Caribbean ancestry?
Well, I know that there are other relatives we have there in Jamaica, but I didn't have the opportunity to know them. My grandfather came to work in the construction of the railroad. He came along with other workers. So when he came here, he worked for several years and he got sick and died. So he was not too much around, and I didn't have much opportunity to know him either. But he died through the sickness and disease that was affecting the plantations and also the swamps along the line where the construction railroad, and he's one who died into this terrible, what you call a situation, what our ancestors passed through here in the mountain.
Right, right. And you know, what was his name and more or less the date that they come, like the year that they came? Do you know that?
Uh, his name was James Watts,
Mm.
and he came to Costa Rica in 1920s. So he had a little of the work that was almost culminating. But one of the things that affected him was the swamps where they had these banana plantations, and he was not able to get the real treatment for it. The commissary and the hospital were very distant from where he lives. Yeah.
About the,
Yeah.
you know, when we put a name and a face to the struggles, you know, it become real instead of just reading it like a story, like you know, a tale.
Real incidents that took place, yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little more of, like, you know, when you were a teenager, you already said that you went to school, you used to go to English school in the morning or whenever. So how was the life in Limon during your teenage years or your young adult years?
Yeah. Well, I can say that the families that surrounded us, they were very loving and respectful people. If my mother had to go to lodge in the night, she asked the neighbor to give eyes and us that we don't get out of the house during the night time. They used to help my grandmother also. If she need to do shopping, go to the market, they will help her to get the things to purchase for her what she need. There were people that were interested in your education, try to help you to see that you could reach up in life through education. They encourage you to go to English school. They encourage you to go to public school. They always try to insist if you need anything, people will try and give. For instance, if your shoes is not in good condition, they will help with a pair of shoes. If you need something to eat because you didn't have much at home when you get out from school, you go to the neighbor and say, can I get something to eat? And they were willing to cooperate with you. So I can speak good of my neighbors that we had in the area where I live, here in the city of Limon, that they were very kind people. The liquor that they could provide for their home, they could share it with someone else. And my mother also was a member of the lodge, of the Samaritan Lodge, and they used to pay their dues to the lodge. And whenever any emergency of sickness or anything, they will get a little token from the lodge to help the situation. We used to go to English school, and this fee was very small those days when I was going. But still yet, we used to see that people try to help you in paying that fee. If your parents cannot pay that week, you're not staying home, you're going to class because they will give something to help you.
It was that community spirit. Since you speak so much about education, the importance of education, could you tell us about your education? Like, you know, your process from primary, secondary, and tertiary education.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, I started in my English school, what you call parish school, parochial schools of the Methodist Church. Then I went to the public school, Escuela General Tomás Guardia, that is in the city of Limón. And I finished my 6 years in the school. Then I went to Colegio Diurno Limón for 2 years. I studied in Colegio Diurno, and it wasn't so pleasant with me because I lost 1 year and had to repeat. So my mother decided to get me out and put me into Colegio Nocturno. She said, I have to work and help myself because they cannot pay for schooling and you're not making it. When I went to Colegio Nocturno, well, I got through the 4 years more that I balanced and was graduated as Bachiller en Ciencias y Letras in Colegio Nocturno de Limón. After finishing my secondary school, I went to Normal Superior, that was transformed in the following year, 1969, where I was studying for Profesor de Estudios Sociales, social studies teacher. I went to Normal Superior for 4 years and graduated as professor. After finished my studies in Normal Superior, I got a grant from the church, a scholarship to go and study theological education.
From which church? Sorry, from which church?
From the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Church.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, the priest that was in charge, he said he needs some young leaders, and he see that I can make it, and if I could get a little time from the teaching and go and study something else. So I got a year off from the school and went and studied in Guatemala, theological education, for 1 year as a special student. Then returning from Guatemala, I was enrolled in Liceo Nuevo Limón, where I worked for almost 17 years as professor in Liceo Nuevo Limón. But otherwise than my studies in Guatemala, I went also in 1980 to the United States at Sewanee, Tennessee, and studied in a University of the South, the School of Theology, where I obtained another degree in theological education. Returning back to Costa Rica, I was ordained as priest, as deacon in 1974, as deacon, and then in 1976, I was ordained as priest. During my time as a priest, I was still giving my classes as a teacher, as a professor. And I worked in Liceo Nuevo. After I was retired from Liceo Nuevo, I went and took out another degree from the Universidad Adventista de Centroamérica, which is called UNADECA in Alajuela. I went and took out a degree of a license in Estudios Sociales, licenciado en la enseñanza de Estudios Sociales. After retiring from public school, I work in the Caribbean school. That's a bilingual school around the hospital road here in Limón. The Caribbean school I served, and Jeronimo Matis was the director, and I served with him 3 years as professor, both in English and in Spanish. Then after I went and worked at the Episcopal School, Escuela Centro Educativo San Marcos. I served 2 years in San Marcos. And also, I was able to give some classes at the INA. I was giving about legislation, labor legislation. And after that, I retired from the teaching and just dedicate now my time in the ministry of the church.
In the Anglican Church, that is. Okay. I remember previously in a discussion we had, you speak about something in a ship or captain something. I can't remember what that is.
Yes, I am also serving, since I am a retired teacher and a retired priest. After 70 years, you cannot continue as a, what you call, paid person. You can give your service volunteer and you can get a small stipend for your expense, but not a full-time priest.
Right.
So after I got through and completed 70 years old, I retired from the parish administration as a parochial priest at St. Mark's, and I was invited to serve as chaplain at the dock, what you call port chaplain. Right now, I am helping those crews, those sailors that comes to Limon, and sometimes they need to get in contact with their family, and we can help them with a SIM card or with some type of correspondence by Wi-Fi or a way of communicating from here to their country. There are people that come from Filipinas, Taiwan, Indonesia. We have some Latinos, them that come from countries in South America. And many times they are out of funds because the money they earn on the ship is sent home to their family. And when they are out here, they are just scarce and cannot do much expensive. So we give them what you call some social aid, and also we help them in the spiritual line. I give them some reflection, some Bible studies, and also we try to give them what you call a type of therapy so that we can help them with their mind secure and clear and not so much worried about their situation at home and their family. There are a lot of them right now that were working on ship and they are not working anymore. They had to close the cruise ships, and now many of them are not working, so they are unemployed. And we still pray for them that someday they might be able to regain their job and return back on the ship.
Yeah, this pandemic really affect, especially the most vulnerable, a little more than the others, right? So yes, we have to have them in our prayers. So my last question, to don't take up too much of your time. I know that I know that the organization that you were part of, the teaching organization, which you will, clarify for us, was instrumental to the celebration of August 31st. So could you elaborate, on this event that, today we celebrate with a lot of pomp and pageantry?
Sure. It's very interesting to show that in Limon we had a regional branch of the Sindicato Educadores Costarricenses SEC. We have a little office and we have sessions with teachers every month when they have supervisors meeting. The leaders of the syndicate will come and give a talk and experience about the history of Costa Rica, something about the life of people, what we pass through. And one of the things that called their attention is about the Black, that they were not recognized as citizens of this country for many years. We had to go through hard tasks to get our rights as a citizens of the country. And even in employment, we used to have discrimination in selecting what type of job they can employ you or what you cannot get in. So there were many situations that affect our culture. And in the syndicate, we decided to establish a plan to include in our curriculum something about the history of Black people in Costa Rica. And we design it and make this curriculum and present it to the Ministra de Educación Pública, Doña María Eugenia Dengo Vargas, that was at that time in time of Calazo, so that she could present it to the council, Consejo de Gobierno, and the president, what they think about this project of including one day in August to celebrate the Black people, Day of the Black people, so that the students in school can learn a little more about our history, our ancestral, and also the struggle that we are going through as Black in this country. Well, this proposal was accepted, and in our national convention in 1980, it was approved to establish it as a decree for the Day of Black People, the 31st of August. When this decree was approved, we decided to design our plans and program and send it out to the schools so that the teachers give more time to study the Black history in the curriculum. I was at that time the vice president of the syndicate, of the national board of the syndicate. So I was able to present it officially in our convention, national convention, to the president of the republic, that he could sign the law giving us that decree so that we can celebrate Legal Day. That time was president of Costa Rica, Licenciado Rodrigo Carazo Odio, and he was very excited about it. He spoke to us about his days when he used to live in Turrialba, Siquirres, those areas, and he used to live among Black people, and he know the hard time that they used to go through. So he was in favor of that law to put in the curriculum of the school about the history of Black people. I can say that we started out as a school board activity, but through the years passing by, we have other groups that integrate into this project. For instance, el Comité Cívico Limonense, Grupo Étnico-Cultural Étnico-Limonense, whose president is our sister Marcel Taylor. She presented the idea to a group and they decide to form a committee, and they have other activities for the community at large. It's not just for the schools, children, and teachers, but now it's for the community. For instance, the Grand Parade that we have on the 31st, that is part of the Comité Cívico that introduces that. They also have activities where they give an award to some of our Black leaders that are distinguished in certain areas, in sport, in music, in working, in all the different activities. They give an award yearly to each of those who have been distinguished members of the society for the past year. And I was honored twice by this committee.
Oh, that's nice.
I got an award where they recognized my work as a teacher and one as a pastor. So in 2 times they invited me for the work I'm doing. And I'm very thankful for that committee because everyone in Limon is satisfied of the work that they are doing. Over 25 years, they are carrying through this work and giving us a support because the students from school, they participate in the parade also. Escuela Limoncito, Escuela Tomás Guardia, Escuela Rafael Iglesia, they participate, they have a space in the parade. It's not just the singing bands and those people with the carroza, but you have group of students that come out representing some aspects of the life of the Black people.
Anything else you would like to say before we close? Because that little piece of history is very important to have it recorded in the history books to highlight the contribution of the SEC, the participation of the members, the Afro-Costa Rican members within this national organization. So I think that is very important. So if there is anything else you would like to add before we close.
Yes, I would like to talk a little about the society. We have here in Limon different groups. For instance, Jamaica Burial Scheme Society. We have Square Dance Club. We have different groups of people. We need to have a little more integration of these different groups. Sometimes people wonder why they are scared to be more open to the rest of the blacks of the community. They just select a few members to form part of the group and not open that anyone who like or interested can be part of it. So this is something that I am unpleasant about. I will hear of the work that they are doing, and I can see them go around and do charity work and things, but they are not open to give more space to the entire community. And we should start think about a little more integration of our group of Black people. We have the talents, we have the education, we have the capacity that we can serve in other areas. It's not just a teaching school, it's not just a pastor and the pulpit, but as a human, we have other things that we can share with people. And these groups that are working, I know they are doing very good job. It's not that they are not working, but they are doing wonderful job. But it's what you call a close branch. Es una casta that needs to open up and show that we are one people. We are one race, that we need to know more about each other, and we can give our support to those who are in need. I go and visit the Asilo de Ancianos sometimes, and when I go to the Asilo Ancianos, there's a group is there, and when I go, like they will just stop their program to see what I'm going to do and what I'm going to do, and then they will continue, go back the next day. But to say, well, Reverend Watts, since you're here, why don't you give us a message or a reflection? Why don't you give us a prayer? No, they come prepare what they are doing, and it's their work they are doing. So no one can just get in and share with them. So those are the things that bother me, and I see that we can do more for people in the mountain. Right now, with the situation of the workers on the dock, there are a lot of people who are out of jobs. I have met with some that their children cannot even go back to school because they cannot afford it. They need to get more money to come in, and they try to get the children in some type of job. If it's able to go to the basket and sell something, that they can get some money in for the house. And really, the church alone cannot do all that. The church cannot give. I had a meeting with a group, and I was able to get a fund that we help in how to call some goods, some packs with goods, rice, sugar, coffee, thing, and give to a group of them. About 20 of them met with me, and we were able to share with them. But if we could have an organization that is more steady, we could have a monthly gathering with them, not just once for the year that you can able to give them some. If we could have a monthly meeting with them and see what is their need, what things they need for the home and the expensive, how we as a Black people can do something to provide for them, to let them feel comfortable and that their children can continue their studies and not dropping out from school through the cause of the labor situation in Limon.
All right, Padre Watts, thank you so much for this time, and thank you for sharing a part of your story. I think it is very important that we tell our stories so that we can understand and appreciate the life that we have today, right? We can understand the journey of our ancestors and appreciate, know that we are standing on their shoulders. So thanks again, and hopefully your plea is heard in terms of us working together and pulling, all the strings together so that we will be a lot stronger. So thank you.
Somos voces de la historia, sangre, tinta y papel. Somos voces de la historia, mis ancestros, su saber, mis ancestros, su saber, mis ancestros, su saber.